how did you guys actually meet? You know, how did the four of you find each other?
Well, of course, I got to know Anya and Sal first before Michelle came later. So for me, I actually became friends with both Anya and Sal maybe around at the same time. It was a kind of a spur of the moment. We decided to go downtown. We were living in AP House, and the sakura was blooming, so we took a lot of pictures. It was a really nice day, and ever since then we kept in contact with each other and became close friends. I think for Michelle, I think I got to know you through Sal.
Yeah.
Also because you were Michelle used to be Sal's roommate. So yeah. Now you've moved out, but then that's how we now for personal reasons. So
I live next door.
Nothing like that, you know.
Just
No, yeah, for me, I met Sally first. Like we had a class together, SSAW.
Yes, SSAW.
Yeah, we had SSAW together, so I knew her through that. But the thing is, I didn't really talk to anyone online. It's only when I came here, and she's like, "Oh my God, girl, you're in the country?" I was like, "Yes, I am." And I happened to go to campus that day, and I was walking past, and I see this cow sweater, and I was like, "Oh, this looks familiar from someone's story that I've seen." And the next thing I know, this black girl's running towards me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're here!" And so that's how I met Sally. And then after that, because I saw Anya in her stories, I met you on campus in classes. And then I heard about you, but you're we don't exchange.
Yeah.
And then you came back, and then I met you more properly.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's how I met you.
So for me, okay, I'm really bad at remembering how I met people for the first time. But I'm gonna say no. I met you on campus. I knew of you because for the Indonesians we have this group chat thing and a lot of people on Instagram. So we've definitely seen each other online, but we've never really interacted. But when we started talking to you and I met you on campus, we hung out.
We went to Ransu.
That is true.
Ice cream place. Yeah.
And for Sal, I'm gonna say we met online first, and then we met in AP House. We lived in the same floor, a few doors away, and we were the only few international students because we came during the peak of the pandemic. So we vibed. It was great. And for you, it's interesting you said we were on campus. I think we met downtown first. I ate at Naruto Udon with you guys.
We did,
girl. We did. But then after that, I think because you were still settling down in Udaku, I didn't see you until classes started again because it was during the break, I believe. And then only when classes started, we started hanging out because we're both the same major, so a lot of classes.
I saw your red hair.
Yeah, I used to have red hair, so.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's really nice. I think you guys have talked about mostly how we've met.
Yeah.
I think something I remember significantly when meeting Anya, for example, was I didn't have food for some reason at the time. I didn't have an evening meal plan on that day, and I had just recently come to AP House, and so she made my first dinner for me in someone else's dorm at AP House, and that was just the best thing. And then I remember meeting Erin. Yeah, I think we had first gone to the park.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful memory. So yeah, and also meeting Michelle, I was over the moon. I was ecstatic because we had been talking on Instagram, I think. But yeah, we had been talking on Instagram.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I want to see her in person. So that's why and now we're here.
Now that you guys have interacted with each other, have you guys noticed anything interesting about each other's culture?
I knew beforehand that taking care of African hair for women is particularly it has its own process, kind of its own culture to it. But I didn't know how it could take 2 days or something. So I remember Sal or someone saying that they need 2 days to do their hair, and I remember asking, being surprised, 2 days? What do you mean 2 days? So and I got to know a lot more about how it's done. So I found that interesting.
For me, I don't really think so. I mean, I've lived in Asia for a lot of my life, so meeting Indonesia, I was like, okay. And I lived on the African continent, so the relatability, I was like, okay.
That's true. Yeah,
Like Erin said, other than the hair, for me, I think it's just skincare. I think living in, having come from an Asian country as well, being in Japan, I realized I think for skincare or makeup, I think it's pretty accessible. for stuff. But then like I think being friends with from Africa, I realized that it's there's a lot of different things that people need, and it's not quite available, or there's like a certain level of struggle to get those. And I think it's really interesting to be able to learn more about like the importance of using stuff and how they get them living abroad. So yeah.
I think what I've learned about the most is definitely like Indonesian culture and language. That's something I was not familiar with before. But considering the fact that I'm friends with like a lot of Indonesians, and you know, you guys make Indonesian food sometimes, and sometimes you guys will like switch into Bahasa with each other. So it's actually been really cool learning like, you know, Bahasa and like hearing them speak and kind of getting familiar with that. So yeah, that's something I think that I've learned.
Have any of you guys picked up any Swahili from Sally?
From Sally? No, not really, actually. But you know what's interesting is like hearing Sally when she calls her mom and she switches, like it's kind of like a 360 difference.
Yeah.
Her accent completely different, and it's so interesting. It's like I'm seeing a different part of Sally.
That's true. That's true.
No, I was shocked. I lived with Sally, and I was like walking past one day, blah blah. I was like, huh? Who's that talking? It's so shocking.
So yeah, it was so interesting.
I think it's quite interesting being able to hear and learn about like how different people from different countries code switch when it comes to like speaking in English, where you know everyone else speaks English, but then when it comes to speaking to family members or friends from your own home country, where the mannerisms, the language, the way you know your behavior also changes. I think it's quite interesting to be able to see the differences. Yeah, so that's one thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting in that way. I have not taught them maybe I'll make a point of doing that now. But yeah, I think they've definitely been able to like learn a little bit more about like Kenyan culture and how we talk, you know, because of you know having interactions with me, I can definitely say that. But also, Michelle has lived in Ghana, so she's also a little bit familiar with that as well. Just not Swahili.
Right?
West Africa. A little bit.